The current flow, back in Houston, doing it like we used to do it. I'm excited. Like, I'm super excited. Warren's got a dope ass song with an artist that he's looked up to ever since I've seen Warren pick up the pen. Like, it's just all like coming together over time. Just seeing your homie grow, you know, as an MC, taking his craft more seriously and stuff. You know, so I'm excited. K-Rino,
my boy,
good to meet you. Ellie, I don't know.
Yeah, you met
I don't know how much you know about me, but yeah, I mean, I'm excited. You know, I've known Warren since he picked up the pen, and when we started rhyming together and making music, he put me on your stuff, and it's just crazy. It's just crazy how much, you know, we've grown together as friends, and then up to this point where now he's rhyming with someone that he's been influenced by.
That's how it works.
It's like full circle. So, what's up, y'all? It's the current flow. Elysium Fuego's back at it again with another episode. You know, we keeping it moving. Back in Houston, where everything originated from, and today we have a very special guest. But before we introduce our very special guest, we want to go ahead and lead you guys to audibletrial.com/the current flow to go ahead and start your free trial with Audible to get some more reading. And you know, we always encourage that for people that have been listening to us ever since we started the podcast. We talk about books, we talk about things that we apply in books in our lives to kind of better ourselves. So we always encourage people to do that. So today in the house we got my man Stick, soon to be legendary MC, sitting next to a solidified legendary lyrical assassin. I mean, that's the way I could just put it. From Stick knows me, man. I'm all about them aggressive lyrics, them hard beats, and that no nonsense rhymes. So we got K-Rino in the house. For people in Houston, I'm sure people know about K-Rino and the big movement that happened down here in the South. You know, late 80s, early 90s, late 90s, a bunch of movement going down here in the South. And K-Rino's just one of the MCs that has established his longevity with a bunch of the crews he's affiliated with and just a bunch of the other staples that are in Houston. So to us, it's a real big blessing to have him on the show, for him to come share his experience, his story, all his knowledge. And yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and dive into the history of what it was like to be an up and coming MC in the South to where he is today, still releasing music, still keeping the quality coming, and not letting up on the lyrics. Like, when I was doing my homework, oh my God, I counted like 39 albums that I had to listen to, and I was like, you know what? Let me trim down the list. Like, let me codify this. So I started listening to the Big Seven, and then I listened to Mightier Than the Sword, and then I was listening to a couple of the older ones from the '90s, and I was just like, ain't shit changed. Like, so K-Rino, thank you for being here. One of the first questions I want to ask you is, what books are you reading right now?
Man, well, first, thanks for having me on. I appreciate the love. I'll send you a check for all the compliments.
Nah, man, your presence is enough. Thank you.
But yeah, some of the books I read now are some of the ones that I've been reading really forever, because if you read a book like Message to the Black Man by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, How to Eat to Live by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, there's so many different books that the knowledge is perpetual, and you read over and over again, you get something different. It's like watching a certain movie, and every time you watch it, you catch something different in it, and those are some of the books that I read that kind of give me that.
Yeah, so basically when you want to feed off some knowledge, you go and read some of the teachings of Elijah Muhammad.
Without a doubt. And, you know, there's other authors, but he encompasses everything. So it's like, I don't really have to stray too far away. But you know,
that's what's up.
Yeah.
That's good. And so just with that beginning statement right there, I guess people can kind of get an idea of what they might be getting into if they listen to your music. Because if you closely align your mentality with someone like, you know, Elijah Muhammad, there's going to be a lot of consciousness and truth that you're going to get from a person that aligns with that you don't really get from like the mainstream. So, you know, for you coming up and, you know, starting to hear of this thing called hip hop in the early 80s, what what were your beginning thoughts as like a person from the South saying, "Yo, what's this thing people putting words together?" Like, how did that start boiling up for you?
Yeah, well, actually, for me, it started in the late '70s.
Oh, okay.
Because when Sugar Hill Gang came out with Rapper's Delight, that was like 1979, and I was just a little youngster growing up in the dead end down there, and so you had Sugar Hill Gang, you had Curtis Blow, you had those OGs that had just hit the mainstream in rap. So that was my first exposure to hearing rap records back then. Moving into the Grandmaster Flash, the Furious Five, and all that. That was my first taste of it. And once I got it, once it bit me, I was gone after that.
Okay, so basically it was just a lot of the stuff that was going on in the East Coast coming down here to the South, and
that's all it was out at the time. It was straight East Coast. It wasn't a West Coast scene then. It definitely wasn't a down South scene back then. So yeah, that's all we had to go on was the original pioneers who started it up back in New York. So.
And so this led up to, I'm guessing this is probably the time you're in high school with like DJ Screw and everybody from the SPC. Is this around that time, or this is earlier?
I ain't that old. That's like '79, so I was like 9 or 10 years old.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm dating it back a little too much.
I hit high school around '85, and by then I had already been rapping for 2 years. I started rapping in '83. So by the time I got to high school, I was 2 years in, man. I was 2 years in, still learning, still getting my feet wet, battle rapping and getting in talent shows and rap contests and all that stuff.
Do you think, working with Stick, do you see any differences as like you being an up and coming MC and then seeing him in the studio? Like, do you see any kind of like, common themes or any differences that you're like, oh man, it's kind of different being an up and coming MC now?
Nah, we only went in the lab that one time, but I did see some commonality there because it's the determination, it's the excitement, the drive of just being in the lab, putting something together. Right. And I can remember I'm still like that, but I can remember early on, and he's not new. It's not like that's his first time being in the lab, but to still have that enthusiasm to go in the lab and put it together and then see that finished product before it's actually tangible. You see it in your mind before you actually even spit it in the booth and before it's mixed and mastered. So then when you get to that point, the first thing he said when I walked in today, he said, "Man, wait till you hear the song." So yeah, those are the similarities. To be just still having that excitement and that enthusiasm about going in the studio, man. Because some people get burned out.
Word. And for you, Stick, how was that for you? Tell me about it, man.
Man, I already told him as soon as we confirmed the track, man, I stayed up all night. I knew I just knew, man, I had to come with it because in my eyes, this man right here is really the epitome of an MC. You know what I mean? But when it comes to the worldwide, not just Houston and in the South, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, overall, he's probably the greatest in my opinion to ever do it. You know what I mean? So, and another thing I want to say is the fact that I got to do a track with him this early in my career, it just made me feel like I could do a track with anybody because he was the biggest. I don't want to say he was the biggest competition I feel like I could ever face. You know what I mean? Just on a song.
I can see that.
So the fact that already happened, it's like, man, this, everything else is just, sky's the limit now.
And I would say that is one of the differences in today compared to when I was coming out. Because if I was in the same similar situation at that time for me, it would be like me doing a song with Run DMC.
Right.
Yeah. If I'm equating that.
It's a big deal.
In this day and time, with the internet and the ways that artists are more accessible, it makes it possible to just make that connect real quick and you have a better shot of making that type of stuff happen. But for me, it ain't hard to get me, but I understand, definitely.
No, I think the reason why Stick feels that way and we feel that way is because when you start doing hip hop, there's kind of like an innocence, naiveness to it. You kind of hold people to like this mystical mystique where it's just like, yo, how does he do that? Like, that's nuts. Especially when you start out because you don't know the game that well, you know. But like now that we've been in this for 5 or 6 years. I'm a music producer. He produces as well, MC, right? I used to rap with him, but I don't write like that no more. but yeah, like now that we're up to this point, we feel like, you know, it's time to get out of our comfort zones and be with people that we would consider like influences, and not only like we strive to be peers with them. And so I just think, you know, the fact that, you know, a close friend of mine was able to link up with someone that influenced him so much is just so powerful for how he has studied his craft, studied the Southern culture where we come from.
You've been there since high school.
Yeah, man. Like so I'm sure there's a lot of those similar feelings with some of the people you started, you know, your clique with. For people who aren't familiar, K-Rino started a Houston-based hip hop group called South Park Coalition. I believe you started that with Gangsta Nip, right?
Well, Nip came along later.
Okay.
We started it in '87, and we just had a lot of guys that I went to school with, like Rapper K and GT and Easy T, just guys that y'all might not know now.
Right.
But then maybe later that year, me and Nip had this big battle, you know, 'cause we was rivals at one point. And after we had that battle, we had so much love for each other because neither one was backing down, and we was smashing each other. And so all his guys joined with all our guys, and that just what really clicked us up and then strengthened us more after that.
So what was the intention behind all that? Was this just like, yo, we're gonna form this group of just dope MCs?
And yeah, that's what it was. In the beginning, it's like everybody had a little crew back in the day. You know, everybody would name and call their crews out. I'm talking about the mainstream guys. So you're trying to follow in that path. I want to have me a crew too. So us being from South Park, it was like South Park Coalition, that's us. And I was just grabbing guys and saying, hey man, we SPC. It was like, what's that? I'll tell you later, you in it. You know, like that. So that's how it went down. But as it started to grow, the name started to get out there a little bit more. And like I say, once Nip and all the rappers from Jones High School, Klondike Cat, AC Chill, Murder One, all of them came and got with us, it was over after that.
What was the creative process like when y'all started putting records together and releasing collaboration albums? Like, how did y'all manage to get all those minds and all those lyrics like
on the same page?
Yeah, for real.
Well, I mean, our is 100%. When you say collaborative, our collaborative success is 100% fueled by competitive nature. Period. Because if you're talking about Klondike Cat, Gangsta Nip, Point Blank, myself, AC Chill, all in the same room, writing to the same beat. That's how we did it back then. It wasn't like, okay, I'm gonna write my part over here, you email me the beat now, and then we come together. We would be in the same room with the beat playing over and over again, just writing. So you looking across the room and you like, ain't no telling what Nip right? Yeah. Ain't no telling what Cat writing over there. So the drive, you gotta come with it.
Right.
You have to be in that mode. Otherwise, when everybody lays those parts, there's 10 rappers on this one song, you don't want to be considered the weak link. And any one of us on any given day, any given song could be the guy who takes the song. It don't have to be me.
Right.
It could be AC. It could be PSK 13. You never know who's gonna hit that pocket, that particular song, and run off with it. So our competitive spirit really drove that, and it reflected in the songs, and our fan base loved it, because our fans would even choose, man, my favorite rapper in the clique is this guy, you know. But they had respect for all of us.
Yeah, y'all have very strong camaraderie. You know, even to this day, when I'm out with y'all, and we out there helping out the community and things of that nature, like it's just very strong, and it feels good in my shoes to be connected to something like that. So I just want to let you know I appreciate that for real.
We appreciate you. It's a brotherhood, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you
I can see that.
guys who've been knowing each other for 30 plus years. You know, 87 to 2018, we South Park Coalition, that's 31 years.
Yeah.
So in all of us, the most recent entries into the South Park Coalition have been around 15 years. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So all of us, we really know each other and just had that respect. We've had our upside down, and but we had that respect to it. Now you dealing with guys who are in their late 40s.
Right.
You know, just still, we grown men, people got families and all that. So now we have been through those storms, and we look at each other in a different kind of way now. We look at each other, man, we've been through some stuff together.
It's a brotherhood, but
No.
shout out to Cliche too, the sister,
No
sister
question.
of the crew, man.
No
Okay.
She showed me much love as well, you know, so we gotta shout her out.
She general.
that-
She's a she general.
Legend.
That's women are usually the generals that bring it all together.
doubt, no
Yep,
doubt.
yep. Straight. No,
That-
Maddie here, the executive producer of the Current Flow, is like a living example of that.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff we do wouldn't be possible if I didn't have
Yeah.
the woman that Maddie is,
Right.
basically.
Right
Yeah.
Behind every great man.
Yep.
We know
Exactly.
the fill in the blank. You
That's
know?
what's up.
No doubt.
What role did like DJ Screw and the Ghetto Boys maybe have around this time when you were getting the music together with SPC? Were they around, or were y'all like collaborating too, or was it more like everybody was kind of scattered? Y'all knew of each other, but y'all weren't really linking up to work on music.
Well, actually, you have.
Oh, and happy birthday to DJ Screw, man. R.I.P.
Yeah,
for real.
yeah,
Yesterday was his
yeah,
birthday,
yesterday,
man.
yeah.
Shout out to the legend.
Already.
We just got T Bruns in the building.
Yeah,
We got another soon to be legendary MC walk up in the spot.
Trying to do that's my brother right there.
Word,
He
that's
been-
another brother.
Both of them been down with me since the beginning.
Ever since we picked up the pens, ever since we picked up making beats, we've been rocking.
Like with him walking in, another thing I want to say, man, for y'all to be down for 30 plus years, bro,
That's inspiration for us, man.
Yeah,
That's inspiration.
Because a lot of groups of friends don't last that long. A lot of fraudulent shit goes down, or like, you know, just things happen. You know, people grow apart and all that type of stuff. So for y'all to keep holding on strong, man, that's very significant.
We have been through the bumps in the road. You know, you can't know anybody that long and not have been through those kind of obstacles. You know what I'm saying? Arguments, disputes, those things of that nature. But the strength comes in reconciliation and saying, you know what, we had that issue. That's my brother. We still love each other, and we move on from it. You know, so y'all are in the process of that right now. But the beauty of it is, and the crazy thing about it is that those years go by so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Like even now, y'all may have not known each other for 30 years, but you may have 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 under your belt.
10. We got 10.
So y'all got a 10 piece under your belt. But I'm willing to bet that y'all can remember the early days like they were yesterday.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
the beginnings of it, when man, I met this guy, man. You know, you remember that type of stuff, things that you that happened 10 years ago, quicker than some of the stuff you did last week. I can't remember what I ate last night.
Yo, that's so true.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to something so impactful like hip hop.
Yeah.
You know, like we always took hip hop seriously to a different level and to a different degree besides seeing it as a way to make money.
Right.
Like we always thought, yo, this is a craft that is bettering my life.
Right.
Like, you know, and through that we've been able to build deeper friendships and like just gone through a lot of real life shit.
It's a very spiritual thing.
Oh,
Yeah,
word!
no question.
You don't get through all this without God.
Right.
That's
No
straight
question.
up. And we've all had that discussion. We've all had those back and forths of, yo, where's my spirituality at and all this.
Right.
But not to get too high level. Like we can get in there though. But I am curious to know how SPC was kind of linking up with people like DJ Screw, maybe Scarface, you know, Bushwick, like Willie D. How was that happening back in the day, or was everybody just kind of secluded?
Well, what you got to know, as far as the Ghetto Boys are concerned, in the very beginning, it was a whole different group of guys. Because you're talking about mid '80s, the original Ghetto Boys consisted of Jukebox, Johnny C, Reddy Red, and Bushwick Bill. And Bushwick was the dancer. He wasn't even rapping at the time.
Shout out to Jay Prince.
Without a doubt. Jay Prince, the Godfather. And what I used to battle against those guys. We was enemies. You know, I was enemies with everybody. You know, you battle rapping, man. It's like it was on site, any rapper, man, just because. But the Ghetto Boys and myself and my crew, it was basically, like I said, it was on site every time we saw each other. So I knew Willie D, because Willie D was a solo artist. He was doing his thing on the north side, but we didn't come in contact with each other like that. And I didn't know if Face hadn't come along yet. Face came along probably late 80s, even though he was doing it. But he hit the scene probably in the late 80s. So it wasn't a situation where I kind of would see those guys around like that. Willie D maybe, but as far as Screw is concerned, you know, I went to high school with Screw.
Yeah.
So he was at Sturgis with me. Fat Pat, all those guys, we was at the same high school. So I knew Screw, but this was long before he was Screw.
Yeah.
But that was always his name. It was always DJ Screw. He was DJing back then, but he hadn't innovated that subgenre that he ended up creating. That hadn't come along yet.
Right.
Yeah, so you know, we've always been affiliated and always been loved. If you can look back at I think the second project that I ever released, I was in a group called COD, and we came out. This how far back it was. It came out on cassette and on vinyl. We weren't even out on CD yet.
I still buy cassettes and vinyl.
Yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. And you know, on the back when you read like the special thanks and shout out and all that, if you go back to that, we dropped that. We recorded in '89, dropped it in '90. You'll see DJ Screw's name on that. And that was my guy way back then. But this was before the whole Screw Up movement. Yeah.
What was it like the first time you heard Chopped and Screwed music? Do you remember that moment?
Yeah, I remember the moment. I was like, man, we used to do that when we was little. We used to slow the record player down. That's what
put the 45 on 33.
Yeah, that was how it played out in my mind. I'm like, what is Screw doing? You know, what is he doing? And but as the more I listened to it, I realized the science of it. It wasn't just a dude slowing down some records. You know, it was an exact science to what he was doing, and it was almost, you know, hypnotizing to the listener. You know, mixed in with him coming in talking on it every now and then. So I mean, he had a formula, even if maybe or maybe not that formula was planned. The formula still came naturally. It came some kind of way. So, you know, shout out. I never was a person who could just ride down the street jamming Screw and shout. That wasn't me. But just to look at it in the wave that the impact that it had, you can't do nothing about it.
Yeah, man. That DJ Screw was, I gotta say, one of my biggest influences out here. Especially when you go to the shop and they still releasing tapes to this day.
Yeah,
Chapter 336 and all that. I was there yesterday for his birthday.
Right.
They dropped a tape from Club Nouveau and Wicked Cricket on there.
So
Wicked Cricket on there.
See, that's another one, man. When you talk about just the OGs and the pioneers of rap in the city, Wicked Cricket is like the king, because I always describe him as being the first Houston rap celebrity. He was the first guy that actually just gained popularity in the city of Houston as just a rap artist, where people would see him and be like, wow, it's Wicked Cricket. And this is long before putting records out, long before internet. This guy built his name up organically in the streets. And yeah, all the way until he passed away, he was relevant. And
wow.
You don't really see that.
Yeah, rest in peace. Real.
Rest in peace. I need to do my research on that, because I
still need to do more research.
Yeah, I need to do my research on that. You've told me that name before, but I need to do more homework.
That's the OG of all OGs. He's a guy that a lot of us looked up to coming up, because you know, as long as I've been doing it now, I can only point to a handful of guys that came before me. You know, so Wicked Cricket is definitely one of those guys that influenced me. They helped raise me in the game. You know, along with guys like Jazzy Red and Klondike Cat, just guys who were there a little bit before me. So I mean, I was just honored to be in those guys' presence as a young teenager coming up.
Yeah, and that makes so much sense. And I got to shout out one of my producer homies, Adaphonics, because he always stresses to me that, you know, giving respect and showing your appreciation for the people who influenced you, that came before you, is a big part of being an artist, because that's where we pull from.
Yeah, you gotta pay your homage.
We wouldn't be here if we didn't go back and listen to the history and the foundation that made hip hop possible for us.
And if you know in your heart that this individual influenced you and played a role in your advancement as an artist, you do a disservice to not put that on blast every opportunity.
Right.
And you see it a lot of times when certain artists come to town and they do shows, like you do a show in somebody's city. I try to go out my way. If I do a show in Austin or wherever I'm at, anywhere you name, I'll be overseas. I want to find out if there's any of the top guys from that area or legends in that area in the building, or even if they're not there, I want to know who they are so I can shout their name out because I'm paying respect because I'm on your turf.
Right. Word.
And you do an artist first. Now, in this day and age, you have people that come in that organically have the mind frame that they're artists. You have people that come in, it's instantly their mind is business. I'm trying to get in, get the rap game, get this money.
Yeah.
But you being true to yourself is something that a real artist is always going to do. Again, I'll speak about Prince. When Prince was 17 years old, he was like this prodigy, could play every instrument and things of that nature. Warner Brothers was interested in signing him. And when they heard the demo, they was like, okay, that sounds pretty good. Who was his band? And the guy that brought the demo in was like, it's just one dude.
One man
He is
band.
the band. Every instrument you hear is
That's
him.
wild.
But the label, although they was impressed by that, they said, okay, well, we're gonna go and put him with Maurice White. And Maurice White was the head guy of Earth, Wind and Fire. And he was a veteran, they were already established. He was like, man, we get him with Maurice and let him produce. And Prince, now he at a crossroads because they're telling him, okay, we wanna sign you, but we're gonna get Maurice White to produce your stuff. And at 17 years old, he was like, ain't nobody producing my stuff but me. So back to what Stick was saying, it's like, no, I got to feel this. I got to like this for myself. No disrespect to the OG Maurice White, but I'm me. So as an artist, I tell people that all the time, whatever is in you to do, whatever you feel, what your identity is as an artist, you do that and you live with the results.
Yeah.
You know, because like I said earlier, people would just body slam me behind my beats. Like, man, that dude, who making these tracks, man? You know? So, but I have to feel it in order to max out when I rap on it.
Right.
And then you feeling it helped you feeling what you were making helped you find the people who are gonna feel you for being you.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, they're gonna feel your spirit and energy through that music
And authenticity.
And at some point, the music disappears in a sense. If I'm making any sense, it's like they don't even hear the beats. It's like, man, I'm listening to what this guy's saying.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm being touched. Now, if you got some dope beats, I ain't saying discourage you, yeah, because that helps too. Because sometimes that's the first thing people hear, and in this world we live in now, musically, in hip hop, people are impatient. That beat come on, and you know, it don't grab them off the muscle. I don't hear that.
Yeah.
This dude may be the greatest rapper ever, but he didn't get that opportunity. But you have to be true to yourself, and that truth has to override monetary situations.
Right.
You know, because you leave a lot of money on the table
Yeah.
by being true to who you are in a lot of instances. But then when you don't, you lose a part of yourself.
Right.
Because like, man,
Yeah.
I took the money, but I let them just basically just
Pimp me.
dog, just rape my album now. It's not what I envisioned it to be.
Right.
So you got to make that decision, man.
Yeah, I think when I listen to a lot of your music, I mean, I listened to a lot of your music like the first year I was a freshman in college, because that's when we were like really getting in the studio, putting out more music, and one was like, yo, you gotta check out this grimy dude, blah, blah, blah. Like, he's super aggressive with the lyrics, I know you're gonna like him, and like, I spent like a whole year just like back and forth, like, damn, this is crazy that someone from Houston would like elevate to this lyrical level of like almost an East Coast MC, but you always had a different take on it, because it's hard to explain, but a lot of the things I grab from your music is just like consciousness, intellect, upliftment, wisdom, a lot of wisdom, especially on a lot of the recent stuff that stuff from the Big Seven, and then like stuff from Mightier Than the Sword. Like on the way here, I was listening on that one song, Giving Up, and I was just like, damn, that song is so truthful. Like, because back to the point you were saying of like turning away from music, and when we were at the peak of our bullshit, going through our journeys and, you know, music careers or whatever, like we hit some bullshit, and I had to drop the music production for a bit and get myself right. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of the stuff that you speak in your music is just very relatable to anyone who kind of has a conscious mind and has more of like that mentality of I'm gonna be me, and I gotta prosper and like do these strides being me. So for you, a question I have, like after you spoke on everything you just said, is like, how have you been able to manage the economic side with the creative side and still feeling like they can coexist with each other? Because I know for a lot of people, especially, you know, doing this for a long time, like you come across people who do get impatient and start asking, where's the money at? Like, I don't see the money, fuck this, like this ain't for me then. I've personally rid my mind of all that because I know my truth and I know what I'm after, and I know God's gonna bless me with whatever He has for me. Like, so to me, that whole monetary thing doesn't matter if I know the art ain't true. So how have you been able to make those things coexist for you for this long?
It's 7 billion people on the planet. So if you can't find a lane for yourself that consists of a core audience that will gravitate towards you and support you forever, then you're not working hard enough. And it doesn't have to be 10 million people that have 10 million records every time you drop something. It doesn't have to be 100,000. You can sustain yourself on a core audience that's consistently supporting you. But it goes back to the previous thing. You have to be 100% who you are in this music, so that can bleed through those speakers and into somebody else's spirit. Like, man, I feel that dude. Because anything that you're speaking about, any problems that you're speaking about, it's a billion people going through it. They just haven't heard the guy who can express it in a way that makes them say, that's my dude, you know, yeah, this the guy I've been looking for, you know, and you become that guy to somebody, so now you start to gain more and more fans and supporters as the years go on, and after that accumulation of time, now you got a core now, you're good, and that core will sustain you financially, because every time you drop, them same people gonna be on top of it mixed in with new people. Right. So you got to go for it, man, and you have to understand your place. It may not be meant for you to be where Jay-Z is. You know, it might not be meant for you to be worth 800 million or be where Kanye or Drake or whoever it is. Right. But you still have a valuable place if you understand it from those perspectives that I just spoke about.
Yeah, I think one of like a lot of what you're saying reminds me of this thing I heard KRS once say a long time ago, where it's like the MCs who succeed are the ones who tap into a relatable consciousness. Yeah. It's crazy, and he said that the best MCs you will never hear because they talking the real. Like, the world don't show you the real, and I want people that listen to us to know that is that you're not gonna hear the real from the big platforms, from
not anymore.
Nah, like it's from the people. It's from the people doing the independent grind. Why? Because you don't control my podcast. You don't control my music that I put on SoundCloud. Like, I control me. Right. So the truth is with the people on the ground, tapping into the people who are, you know, within the same consciousness that you're trying to push.
Well, we posed the question just last night on a radio show, and I was asking just the guys who were up there with me. I said, did the internet level the playing field in terms of, like, in comparison with the major labels? Because the major labels back when I was coming up, that was the only game in town as far as getting what they call so-called big, you know. So you could blow up in the underground, and then at some point the majors will still come to you and try to sign you. But as far as just doing it on your own, you can blow up a YouTube channel, the next thing you know, you got 10 million subscribers, and you making all this bread, and the average person on the street may not even know who you are. I said, man, you ever heard this dude? Like, look at this dude. Yeah. 50 million views on this one song. Right. So, did the internet level the playing field? Yeah, because like I say, with podcasts and things, you don't have anybody controlling you and telling you and trying to regulate your content, dictating to you, hold on, man, what did you talk about right there? Oh, he said Elijah Muhammad. No, cut that out. You know, whatever the case might be. So, yeah, we have to learn how to manipulate these technologies and all of these tools that are available to us in a way that grows us. And once we figure out how to do that, then that's a freedom that you can't put a price on.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, like a lot of the stuff that you do too, independently, being on social media and having a YouTube channel, which I didn't know until like, you know, they confirmed that you wanted to come on the podcast. I was like, all right, let me just start looking like what he's doing, how he's moving. I was like, he got a YouTube channel? I was like, that's what's up. Like, because I feel like that's the next thing, is if you do not know how to brand yourself and utilize technology to your advantage, the big companies are gonna come in, swoop in on this shit, take over it, and then you missed your in to grow, you know, your own audience.
Kind of like in the beginning of hip hop.
Yeah.
When that happened, it's the same type of concept. When the labels got a hold of it, you know, started messing up artists, you know, because they didn't have control over their craft at the time, you know. So yes, it's like the same thing.
A friend of mine, same from last night, the topic was, what's wrong with rap and how do we fix it? And a friend of mine hit me up after the show, and he mentioned something that I didn't even think about, which I felt like a dummy for not, because that would normally be the first thing. He said, what's wrong with rap is we don't own it. We don't own it. For real. Like Stick said, the major labels, as they have done with basically every genre, they swoop in because this is a craft, it's an art form that came straight out the gutter, straight out the streets.
Right.
They watched it for a little while. They saw that it was becoming, that it could be lucrative, and that's $1 billion industry, and they swooped in and was like, let me get that off your homeboy. And now they have control over it. And now when they have control over it the way that they do, they also control what content is released. So whereas there was consciousness playing on the radio 25, 30 years ago, not no more. You have to dig in through YouTube or the internet to find those kind of artists now, because all you're gonna hear now is party, drugs, sex, killing, whatever.
Because that stuff sells. That's it. Yeah.
And well, it sells because it's all that's being presented on that mainstream level, that kind of platform. There are no other options given. So if the only food that existed in the world was donuts, donuts are gonna sell. You know, then somebody comes along one day and just put a slice of pizza on the table nobody's ever seen, like, what's that? And you taste it, it's like, oh, hell yeah. You know, you may still eat the donuts, but like, I'm gonna eat this pizza for a little while too. So that's what has to happen. It's like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he made a statement. Y'all probably have seen the movie Malcolm X. And he said, if you set a clean glass of water next to a dirty glass of water, in other words, if the dirty glass of water is all that's available, the people are going to drink it. But you set the clean glass next to it, you don't have to say a word. The people will make the choice. They're going to say, well, this water, it's got stuff floating in it, and there's a roach in there. This water is crystal clear. Now, they're going to make the choice, you know, based on logic. So it's the same with music. If we get out there and expose what we do on the best level that we can, then people will look at it and say, okay, you know, I'm gonna mess with this for a little while.
And I think that's when I saw that you were like really engaged with social media, you have your own radio show, and like you're doing the whole YouTube thing, I was like, this is great, because this is what everyone needs to do, and it's good to see, you know, people young and people who are seasoned in the game, that they're embracing everything and keep pushing, you know, their truth where people can choose. Like, you know, that's the best thing about where we living at today. Sometimes I'm like, there's nothing wrong with rap. There's something wrong with people. Yeah. You know, because like everything is accessible now. It's just, where does your mind gravitate? Is it going to gravitate to the easy consumption of, oh, this is what's hot, this is what's trending right now, like, or am I going to be like, you know what do I really want to hear? Like, what am I really trying to feel?
I want to highlight the importance of what you offer to the game. You know what I mean? Because, you know, you may do something that the next man or the next person does not do. You know, and that's what people are going to lean towards. You know what I mean? Instead of trying to be like everybody else you see. You know, like you were saying, you want to have your own lane. You know, because if you like the next man, then I mean, if I've been jamming him longer, I'm gonna just keep on jamming him. You know?
Yeah.
So.
If we walk in the room and they say, man, okay, it's a box of t-shirts over there, everybody pick one out. There's a box of blue t-shirts, but there's one orange t-shirt in there. You're gonna see that orange shirt. It's gonna stand out to you over every shirt that's in that pile. You may not want the shirt, but you're gonna see it. It's gonna beam out among out because it's different. Right. So that's how you wanna be as an artist. You wanna just be that guy that you don't wanna be on that little cookie cutter sheet.
Right.
And say, okay, these guys are fine, but me being in it as long as I've been in it, I understand the connection between originality and longevity, and being innovative and being a copycat, a trend follower. Because a lot of those guys, they kind of ride a wave and they, okay, well, man, this is what's hot. This 8 artists have come out this year and they doing this style and they winning with it. 3-4 years later, none of them guys are around. So finding yourself and being true to yourself is one of the elements, the main ingredients to being around for a long time. Because when you speak in truth, when you speak in wisdom, when you speak in relatable topics, those things transcend decades. So what you were speaking about 10 years ago is relevant as it was then. Now some kid who was 12 and didn't understand that part, like he's 22 now, he's hearing exactly what you said 10 years ago and like, man, that's me now.
Right.
You know, it's like we grew up listening to those old school Al Green and Isaac Brothers, them love songs. We was youngsters, and it's like, they jamming, but I don't really know what they mean. And the first time you fall in love, get your heart broken out.
I mean, so yeah, that's another thing.
So talking about being truthful, craft, and longevity, let's talk about this track. Let's talk about this track and how it happened and what y'all thinking. Also, even before, like,
we were back and forth. You know, he asked me what the concept was. I told him the concept and everything. You know, but I mean, I didn't have to break it down to him in like layman's terms or nothing. He knew.
No, I already know.
You know what I'm saying?
I could tell through the music he already knows. Like, I got you.
Right.
Like,
So it was all good.
But how did you feel whenever Stick hit you up and he wanted to do a song, and like what were your first thoughts?
I didn't have any thoughts in the beginning because I do so many songs with people. So truthfully, I do songs where it's like, I ain't really feeling that. I'm just gonna be me. I'm gonna max out. But once I heard the track and he gave me the concept, I was like, oh, that's what's up now, because that's right in my wheelhouse. That's right in my lane, you know. So
we don't make no bullshit.
Yeah. So I was happy, like, okay, well, yeah, man. But the young guy, he up here.
Yeah.
And then I was able to hear his part when I got to the lab. And I was like, yeah, my young guy. So I mean, I can't act like I know what I'm getting into before I actually get into it. It's like once I get there, then I'm okay. Then the brother who did the track was there, and I'm like, man, you got something too.
Right.
So all that energy came together, man, and it was dope, man. So I was just glad to be part. I've done 1 trillion features, and I can't say that I've just been that I liked all of them. Or, so I always, that guy could use a bit more work. That's all. I've turned down features if the concept ain't right. Like, I can't talk about pimping hoes, man. Not no more, man. I used to rap like that, but it has to be something that's conducive to who I am.
And since y'all been working together and producing this track, what it seems like y'all built a relationship just outside of doing that track. It wasn't just, yo, appreciate the feature, homie. Like, yeah. So what's that been like?
It's just building, just building. And, it's just been, really a dream for me. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I know,
this
bro.
Is K-Rino, bro.
And that's rare for me because I don't know. A lot of times it's just business. I see you when I see you. You know.
Yeah.
But I think what created that connection, and it's really still in the baby stages now, is that he is community oriented as well. So if he's not community oriented, then it would just be a feature. And, hey man, I'll chop it up. Which one I chop it up? But if he goes, well man, if there's anything popping, man.
On Twitter, we about to ride out to this track, so I hope y'all enjoy it, man. Thanks for being here, y'all.
Yeah. Check it out, man.
Say, not since the womb they've been doomed, cause I'm highly immune to the wrath of circumstances they devise and collude. I'm a product of it, but I'm not required to lose. Refuse to vanish in the fire, refuse. No take twos, this my only shot. I know I failed a lot. Safe to say your mercy shown, all that bailed me got. Dilemma to change my ways or end up an early grave. Into the pearly gates of ember, eternal flame. Recharging from a day's hardship, achieving liberation. Be my lock and load target. I ain't go to Harvard, but made it up to par with the greatest in the game. Lord, I prayed for my calling. Without you on my side, the question's where would I be? Your words last shall be first, be my testimony. And homie, don't you ever fix your lips to say that dreams ain't possible. Confirm, cause my grind's unstoppable. For real.
You see without you on my side, the dream is hard to sleep. Only you can make it work.
Yeah. We came a long, long way. Watch it. They thought that they could break us after they crossed the water to take us and make us hate each other in hopes that it would erase us. Instead of trading daily with pages of racist papers, replace us while our women stand in the faces of rapists. The sun baked us out in the field, working the acres. But through the situation, we knew he wouldn't forsake us. The flagrant way that they demonstrated how much they hate us. Then years later, fallacious efforts to integrate us. Struggle bonded together and through the longest endeavor. What couldn't kill us actually called it a miracle. We made it out the mud, but maybe they underestimated the power of love. Yeah.
You see without you on my
Man, come on.
No, he killed us.
Let it rock. I want to hear that last verse. Let it rock. We got nobody else.
You took me in when I had nowhere to go. You showed me the way, that's why I love you so.
I like the detail in his cameras.
Depression is real, but God realer. Obsessing over women and spending what's not living. I know it look good, but if you asked how I was feeling, I tell you I'm shattered and not to damage your potential. As hard as it is, and Satan still plotting against us, bringing everything we whisper to divide the holy mission. My partner locked in prison, facing a corrupted system, flipping pages through his Bible, headed up amid sentence, repenting every day for my sins. Cause I stray with the wind, what it takes is commitment plus your faith. That's within, and the hate never ends, so don't break. But the sin higher than their expectations, cause it's fate that you win. No sleeping on the moment, the time is now, and I ain't backing down. I could've gave them time ago, but if I did, I wouldn't be here to set the record straight for what we waste. Cause only God has the last word, the Bible say.